A new Reuters Ipsos poll asked who is the preferred role model for the next generation of Republican Party leaders. This is, of course, according to Republicans. The results show 50% backed Donald Trump, 21% said Ronald Reagan, and a notable 2% chose Liz Cheney.
Pretty interesting. Democratic strategist Michael Starr Hopkins and culture editor at The Federalist, Emily Jasinski, they join us now to discuss. Emily, let's start with you. Liz Cheney dunks and all of that aside, it is still pretty stunning that Trump is not just more popular than Reagan, but doubly so in the Republican Party. And it just sets the stage for years to come. We covered on the show today around Trump's influence on the American electorate, both in terms of his positive and negative ability to drive historic turnout. What do you make of it in the context of all of that?
Yeah, what's interesting to me is that it's about, I believe that number was 50% who said Donald Trump, somewhere around that. That's still shows that there's a split there, actually. So True. It's a really high number, but it does show that there's a split. And I'm not saying that Donald Trump, isn't popular. Of course, he's very popular. And it's just a matter of sort of like with which coalitions. Mm-hmm. But the way the question is phrased, where it says role model for a future leader of the Republican Party, there's something that just about every Republican voter wants for future leaders to carry on with Trump. And it's just this sort of anti-establishment, I don't give a damn what Washington thinks. I'm going to, be bombastic and, take shots at the media. That, I think, when that question is asked, is what comes to mind for a lot of people. And the party needs to deal with the fact that that's what they want in future leaders. That's what they want to see from politicians. And I think it has something to do with style more than it does with policy.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right.
Also interesting here, George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush, very, very low. W's at 5%, H.W.'s at 3%. Michael, what do you make of these numbers overall?
That this is the establishment against kind of the Trump wing of the party. It breaks down almost perfectly. When you look at Trump's numbers, it really shows how fractured the Republican Party is, and that it's a party of personality now, not a party of ideology. I'm not even sure at this point that Reagan and H.W. Bush would be members of this Republican Party. And so I think as we head into midterms, which should really be an opportunity for Republicans to pick up seats and win the House, may actually be an embarrassment because they just can't finish it.
So, what do you think about that, Emily? We've been tracking that very closely, which is that on all the merits, they should win. And not just win, but win pretty big. Regain control of the Senate, regain control of the House. But when you start to look at it case-by-case basis, especially with Trump intervention, like in Georgia, which should be, relatively easy win for the Republicans in a normal time, or in Arizona, where there's a bamboo audit currently going on right now that we covered today on the show, these are things which cost him the election in the presidential race and could cascade downward in the midterm elections.
Yeah, we used to always reflect on these models when the economy looks like this and when the opposing party is doing this, it should be pretty clear what's happening. But I don't think we've ever been mired in culture wars politically at the extent that we are right now. I think these things are this is a question of, in a lot of communities, our social fabric. People feel like the rug is being pulled out from under them. And it's not just about their healthcare bill, even though that's obviously still a part of it. It's also about whether their neighbors hate them because of a sign in their yard and are going to, cause a stir. And so I don't think any of our previous logic really is applying as well as it used to. I think it applies to some extent, but I don't think it's able to explain currently everything that's going on. So I honestly don't know. I do think that the state of the party, it leaves Republicans in a really tough position because they don't know what to do with Donald Trump. And I think that makes it really hard to just message, even in local races, because it's a big distraction. And if you don't have a quick answer and you don't have a clear answer, it makes it really difficult to get past.
Yeah, that's right.
In a way, I agree with all of that analysis, but I don't know, Michael. We were just covering some polling this morning from Stan Greenberg that rings true to me that the Republican base, highly engaged, highly energized. Democratic base went back to brunch, not nearly as interested in politics. Huge problem for midterm election. That's what happened with Obama, is that Republicans were super energized, the base super energized, Tea Party era. They showed up. Democrats were like, we got our guy there. We're good. We can stay home. We don't have to watch this politics stuff on cable news and care anymore. And they got obliterated. And I see some real warning signs here right now for Democrats.
Yeah, look, Democrats certainly can't be complacent. And I think the more that Trump talks and the more that you hear some of the crazies among the really fringe members of Republican Party, the more you're going to see engagement among Democrats. But the real problem is for Republicans. In districts where they're strong supporters of Trump, you're seeing this bubble effect where people kind of forget what's going on outside of the districts. And so using Georgia as an example, look, I mean, you're seeing him lay into Kemp. There's going to be challenges and primaries among not just that gubernatorial race, but among the Secretary of State. And Trump isn't going to back off and let Republicans figure out who is going to be the nominee. He's going to select his person. The establishment's going to pick theirs. And there's going to be a real civil war among primaries in 2022. So the question is going to be how Republicans manage to repair the damage done after those primaries. And I think that's where Democrats are really laying the foundation in terms of building up infrastructure in states like Georgia and Florida, states that that Democrats, haven't been doing well in. But I think we're finally understanding that we've got to be a full year cycle. It can't just be when elections come up.
We'll see. All right, guys, we're going to be back with Team Rising. That's next.